There is an all-women's Catholic college in Indiana. It's called St. Mary's College. And earlier this month, they made an announcement about who's going to speak at their graduation ceremony in May. And I want to show you what they posted. You could see this right here. St. Mary's College announces 2025 commencement speaker, honorary doctorate recipients. And the person to really pay attention to here is this woman in the middle. I want to make sure I have that right. Yes, it is. The woman in the middle of those pictures is former Ireland President Mary McAleese. And she is going to be their commencement speaker at this college in May. And a lot of that makes sense. I should say McAleese has visited the school, but it was for like a smaller event about a decade ago. But she's returning to deliver their commencement address. And it makes sense. So Mary McAleese is 73 years old. She used to be the president of Ireland from 1997 to 2011. She was, I believe, the second female president of Ireland and the first to come from Northern Ireland, which is not an easy thing to straddle that line right there. And she has, I guess, spent her career, by and large, I'm sure, as a politician. There are plenty of reasons to criticize her, but she was known for trying to bring people together, which you kind of have to do if you are the Northern Ireland representative who is now the president of Ireland, right? And I want to show you part of her biography here because it's not just impressive, it suggests that she would have been a hell of a commencement speaker even if you took President of Ireland off of her resume. Look at this. McAleese, who served as Ireland's 8th president from 97 to 2011, was the nation's first president to come from Northern Ireland. Yeah. What else? She is currently a member of the Council of Women World Leaders. She is also the chairperson of the European Union High-Level Group on the Modernization of Higher Education and patron of the Margaret Beaufort Institute of Theology in Cambridge. After serving as president of Ireland, she pursued a doctorate degree in canon law from Gregorian University, Rome, adding to her master's degree in canon law from National University of Ireland. She is also the recipient of numerous awards, including the Tipperary Peace Prize. Again, awesome resume. She would be qualified to receive any sort of honor, even if president wasn't on her resume, right? Like, obvious pick. She's a Catholic. She was the president of Ireland. Yeah, I'm sure a Catholic college wants her to speak there. Now, what's really interesting about Mary McAleese is that not only is she Irish and not only is she Catholic, as far as the Catholic Church goes, she's been super critical of her own faith when it's warranted. All right? Like, it's not that she wants to turn people away from Catholicism. It's that she believes the church is not living up to the reputation and the values that she believes the Catholic faith actually ought to uphold. So she's been super critical of the church and the decisions made by the Vatican. And this is where it gets really interesting. Let me show you some of the things she had said publicly as president and after she was president. So here's an example of something she said a few years ago. This is post-presidency, about women in the church. Speaking to reporters, McAleese also raised the ban on women becoming priests. Pope Francis has said that the issue of women's ordination isn't up for discussion, that women are permanently excluded from priesthood. I believe that women should be ordained. I believe the theology on which that is based is pure codology. I'm not even going to be bothered arguing it. Sooner or later, it'll fall apart, fall asunder under its own dead weight. Wow. So if you only allow men, celibate men, to be priests, like, the church isn't going to last much longer. She's basically saying, look, they're going to accept women sooner or later, but they should do it now because it's the right thing to do. So that's pretty badass for someone in her position to say. Here's another thing she has said. Let me show you this. McAleese, who was the second woman to hold the role of the Irish presidency, continued to claim the Catholic Church to be one of the last great bastions of misogyny. It's an empire of misogyny, she said. There are so few leadership roles currently available to women. Very impressive. You're going to like this one too. You may recall that a few years ago in Ireland, they had a referendum on whether to overturn their constitutional ban on abortion. And you may recall it was very successful. I think like 2/3 of the people voted to overturn the ban because they all knew how barbaric it was to not let women have bodily autonomy. So people asked Mary McAleese, so you're not president anymore, but did you vote for this? Because you are Catholic, so you're supposed to be anti-abortion. What did you say about all this? Actually, there were some critics who said any Catholic who votes to overturn the abortion ban needs to go to confession and apologize for sinning. And this is what McAleese said to that. The upshot is that I voted yes to overturning the ban with a heart and a half. I am a person who would have, over time, always regarded myself as someone who valued the life of the mother, but also the life of the little baby. But I had no hesitation at the end of the day when it came to the vote. I absolutely voted yes. Kevin Durand, the Bishop of Elphin, said after the referendum result, the Catholics who voted yes should consider going to confession. Asked if she had done so, McAleese replied, I have no intention whatsoever of doing so. She said that the Catholic Church had really not come to terms with the clash between people's human rights and canon law. She also, which by the way, she's an expert in. She also criticized the assumption that people would be obedient to the Vatican from the moment of baptism. Times have changed. And one of the things that has changed is our understanding of our human rights. Among those human rights, freedom of conscience, freedom of expression, freedom of opinion, freedom of religion, freedom to change religion. Within the Catholic Church, none of those fundamental freedoms are available fully to church members, according to canon law. Oh my God, she's just going at the church where it deserves to be criticized. Let me show you this one too. Hey, Catholic teaching on homosexuality, evil. She used the word evil. And that's her at a pride parade right there. Unbelievable. I'll give you one more. This is from 2018 as well. Former President Mary McAleese has said that the baptism of infants, which is a big thing in Catholicism, is a form of coercion, calling on the Catholic Church to change its practice. You can't impose really obligations on people who are only 2 weeks old, and you can't say to them at 7 or 8 or 14 or 19, here is what you contracted, here's what you signed up to, because the truth is they didn't. Baptizing babies, she said, makes infant conscripts who are held to lifelong obligations of obedience. I love her. She is amazing. So these are things she has said about the Catholic Church, and she says it as a Catholic. And again, I just want to be clear. She is not telling people don't be Catholic. She is saying the Catholic Church, the humans, the fallible humans who run the Catholic Church have misinterpreted what the church, what the Bible says. They are imposing rules that do not need to be imposed. They are interpreting it in ways they don't need to be interpreted. And so she is challenging the way church leaders have interpreted all this stuff. So I appreciate that she has had one of the biggest platforms someone in Ireland could ever have, and she has used it to criticize the worst elements of the church, which, by the way, is no different from what a lot of regular-ass Catholics have also said about the church. And if, you know what, and if after all that you still see value in the religion, I think that's the sort of person you want to honor if you are Catholic. Someone who says, I love this religion, I want it to be better, and I'm willing to criticize it where it deserves to be criticized because of how much I love this faith. I mean, I would still think she's wrong, but respect. So the school, St. Mary's College in Indiana, they announced she was going to be their commencement speaker, and people flipped out. There's so much backlash about this. So there is a right-wing group on campus called the Loretto Trust. It's a group of conservative Catholic graduates of St. Mary's. And they get mad anytime the school does anything to challenge Catholic orthodoxy. They sent a letter to the president of the school. This was about 2 weeks ago. They sent a letter to President Katie Conboy of St. Mary's College, basically saying, what the hell are you doing? Do you know what she has said about the church? And you can see the bullet points right there. It's all stuff I just told you about. But look at this bottom here. Look at the bottom of this. to bestow an honorary degree upon an individual who has so persistently and publicly attacked Catholic doctrine is an unambiguous betrayal of St. Mary's College's Catholic identity. It sends a scandalous message to students that one can actively oppose church teachings while still being celebrated by a Catholic institution. Oh my God, how dare you? How dare you allow anyone to criticize our church? And again, just to reiterate, she's not saying like, burn the church, to hell with it. No, she's saying the leaders of the Catholic Church got this shit wrong and it doesn't have to be this way. And she's an expert in canon law and she knows what is required and what is not required. So what the hell are these people talking about? They said one more thing at the very end. All right, here, let me show you. We respectfully urge St. Mary's College to rescind this invitation to be commencement speaker and withdraw the honorary degree and thereby uphold its responsibility as a Catholic institution. The role of a Catholic college is not to provide a platform for those who reject and defy the faith, but to uphold, protect, and promote the truths of Catholic teaching. Signed by a bunch of very bitter graduates. All right. So a few things about this. Like, apparently, according to these people, these ladies, the role of a Catholic college is to teach students to never think for themselves and to always obey their male overlords, no matter how cruel and thoughtless and, hey, criminal those people may be. Now, they are not the only group that is challenging this decision because there is actually a group on campus. It's an anti-abortion group called Bells for Life. Belle as in Beauty and the Beast. Bells for Life. Little delicate Southern women who live in Indiana. Bells for Life sent their own letter that they published asking the school to rescind their invitation. And what I want to point out, look at what they said. Let me show this from their letter. Instead, the college has chosen someone whose views contradict those Catholic teachings, sending a dangerous message that departing from church doctrine and denying others the right to life is empowering. Commencement speakers should be role models, not advocates for abandoning Catholic principles. Listen, that's why you shouldn't invite me as your Catholic commencement speaker. But if you're looking for role models, the woman who happened to be a president of Ireland seems like, you know what, not the worst option, especially when you look at what she has said and done. So again, what the hell are these people talking about? My favorite thing about that particular letter is that there was an interview that a news outlet did with the person who runs that organization. And I want you to see this one thing that it cracked me up. In an interview with The Observer, Bells for Life President Jocelyn Porter, that's who we're talking about. Look at what she said. When we first received that email announcing the speakers and the honorary degrees, I didn't recognize many names mentioned. A friend of mine actually sent me some information after doing a quick Google search of Dr. Mary McAleese, and I was like, oh, that's a little concerning. And again, didn't think much of it. Later, I was like, let me actually look into this. So over spring break, me and Vice President Lydia, just the perfect Handmaid's Tale name right there, did some deep diving on all of her stances on everything, realizing that this was deeply concerning. I love the idea that this student had no idea who McAleese was until she was announced as a commencement speaker, which, by the way, I don't even have a problem with that. McAleese was president in 2011. I don't know, half these kids weren't even born. They weren't conscious in 2011. I understand why you might not know who McAleese is, politically speaking. That's fine. But to say I had no idea who she was, but also she's so dangerous, we have to stop her. This lady whose name I just found out 2 minutes ago. Like, there is some cognitive dissonance right there. I don't know who she is, but she's very bad and I must stop her, even though she totally didn't have any impact on my life this entire time. That same anti-abortion group also launched a petition, oppose Dr. Mary McAleese as the 2025 commencement speaker. They have about 500 signatures. There's no actual request here. They're not, I didn't even see the word rescind. They just said we oppose it, which, you know what? It's fine. You can be as mad as you want. College students are allowed to be mad for dumb reasons. That's fine. I don't really know what the purpose of that petition is, but okay. I think it is important to point out, though, the Pew Research Center just released a survey. I talked about it like a week or two ago. They released this huge survey on religious beliefs in the United States. And one of the things they found is they asked people about whether they support same-sex marriage. Well, you know what the Catholic Church says about same-sex marriage. They're opposed to it. It is not allowed in the Catholic Church. Priests are not allowed to bless same-sex marriages in pretty much all these cases even. I think maybe the Pope has shifted on that a bit, but you're not allowed to have your gay marriage in a Catholic church. But look at what the survey found of Catholics in the United States right here. Look at the question. What percent of people say they favor allowing gay and lesbian couples to legally marry? And look at what the Catholic number is right here. It was 57% in 2014, a decade ago. It is now 70%. 70% of U.S. Catholics support marriage equality, even though the Catholic Church says absolutely not. One other thing worth pointing out is that when it comes to abortion, I want to show you this one too. Look at this. Here we go. Look at the question here. What percentage says abortion should be legal in most or all cases? And you could see they have 2007, 2014, and then the gray area is what's happening right now. Who says it should be legal? And if I scroll to Catholic, look at this line above my head here. In 2007? 2007, it was 48%. In 2014, it was 48%. Today, the percentage of Catholics who say abortion should be legal in all or most cases, 59%. It's gone up over the past 10 years, presumably because Roe v. Wade was overturned. But that means a majority of Catholics in the United States support legalizing abortion. And you know the Catholic Church opposes abortion and contraception and everything to do with that. And the only reason I point all that out is to say Mary McAleese seems like a more fitting representative for where Catholics stand on these issues than the zealots who claim to represent the church. Because if they believe the only true Catholics, the ones who the school ought to be platforming on stage, are the ones who accept the Vatican's positions on everything, then guess what? The majority of U.S. Catholics would not be welcome in that college. They wouldn't even be welcome in churches. But the Catholic Church is not about to let these people go because they need the cash. So this idea that Mary McAleese is a bad representative because she violates what the church says, so do just about all U.S. Catholics. 3/4 of U.S. Catholics are like, I'm cool with marriage equality. I'm fine with abortion in most cases. Like what? Do you want to kick them out of church? I dare you. So if anything, the changes that Mary McAleese has called for would make the church a more welcoming, more inclusive place for the people who are open to the possibility of being Catholic, but have been repeatedly told that their identity or their desire for bodily autonomy make them outcasts. So even though the church is pushing people out, Mary McAleese is like, you should fix these things because people want to come into the church. And what are these conservatives saying? They're like, she's the bad one. She's the witch. Let's burn her. Like, what is even the point of higher education if not to teach students when and how to effectively challenge bad ideas? And I also wondered this, like, okay, some of these critics, they oppose Mary McAleese. They do not want her speaking, giving the commencement at their college. Who would they be okay with? Would they be okay with Harrison Butker, that misogynistic field goal kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs? Probably. Would they be okay with J.D. Vance? Almost certainly, because he's anti-gay, he's anti-abortion, he's Catholic, he's the most powerful Catholic in the country. He's also a liar. He's a guy who has terrorized entire communities by spreading lies like he did in Springfield, Ohio. He's totally incompetent, as we saw this week with the Signal chat that was leaked because they weren't secure about it. But these people who are criticizing Mary McAleese would probably be fine with J.D. Vance, and that just shows you where their priorities are at. They do not care if Catholics use their power to hurt people, but if you dare to be a Catholic and say the church ought to do better and, avoid the bigotry and cruelty, that's who they're against, even if that person was a former president. Like, even Notre Dame, the most famous Catholic college in the United States, even they know this. They didn't even bother. I don't think they reached out to Donald Trump or J.D. Vance, even though they have a history of reaching out to the president and vice president to give a commencement at their school. Right now, there's no evidence they even asked because they don't want those people coming to their campus. So I will say this: St. Mary's College deserves credit for inviting Mary McAleese, but this is not a done deal yet. And I know this was pointed out in the comments, but I mentioned this school a long time ago, maybe a year and some months ago, because they were in the news because back in November of 2023, this was the headline for why St. Mary's was in the news. Look at this. St. Mary's approves policy to consider applicants who identify as women. In 2023, St. Mary's College actually said, starting next fall, we are going to allow trans women to apply to come to our school. That was pretty amazing considering what the Catholic Church says about trans people, that they're all liars, essentially. But as soon as there was public pressure and people got so mad about the idea that that this Catholic school was going to accept trans people, there was so much backlash that within like a month, the school announced, you know what, we're going to take that one back. This is what they, news article from like December. St. Mary's College Board of Trustees announced Thursday that they have reversed a controversial decision and will return to its previous undergraduate admission policy of only admitting biological women. And again, look, I don't know why a trans woman would want to go to a Catholic college like this, but that's their decision and not mine. But it just shows that this school caves to backlash. And my fear right now is that the backlash against Mary McAleese is building. I really hope they don't cave. I hope they don't rescind their invitation because they made a good decision and they should stick by it. I should say that trans policy, the admission policy, and then even though that they rescinded it later, the fact that they allowed trans people, or they thought about trans people coming to their school, that is why that right-wing group, the Loretto Trust, that's why that organization even formed. They're like, we're graduates of this school and we're going to make sure it's super conservative forever. I want to show you one other thing, which is that in that letter that on-campus Catholic group posted, where did it go? Here it is. They said one other thing. Look at this at the very bottom. This is from the Bells for Life on campus. The college has chosen someone whose views contradict those teachings, sending a dangerous message. I know I said this earlier, but like, again, what's the dangerous message? Is it the one Mary McAleese is spreading, or is it the one that, prominent Catholics who are Republicans are spreading? I don't know. There's a reason you never hear inspirational quotations telling you to obey and fall in line. Like, it's important to stand up for what you believe, and it's so important to stand up for those values when it means challenging people who are part of your tribe. So for Mary McAleese to go up against the Vatican and the leaders of the Catholic Church, that is a big deal. That's why these students should want to listen to her. They would be learning something far more valuable than like a traditional, than something they would hear from a traditional Catholic mouthpiece who tells graduating seniors, the women who are graduating, that they can do anything they want to do as long as it's not in the Catholic Church where they are not respected. So I hope the school doesn't cave on this. We'll see. I'll pause there. What other questions we got here? Is St. Mary's a school that was going to openly accept openly trans students? Yes, it was. And then they backed off under pressure. Man, everything I learned about Ireland makes me want to move there. It's a good place. I've gotten to visit. It's beautiful. Very nice place, very nice people. If you get a chance to visit, you should go. I love this lady, right? Isn't she amazing? If you watch interviews of her, on like late night talk shows in Ireland or whatever, they're really fun to watch, especially compared to whatever the hell's going on in the US right now. The church has always struggled with having many dissident groups who are far more liberal than them. Yeah, and it's not even dissident groups. I mean, most run of the mill, your neighbor Catholics are way more liberal than the Vatican leaders themselves. I'm genuinely worried right now, even though Pope Francis has appointed a lot of the cardinals who will get to choose his successor. Um, I am kind of worried that when Pope Francis dies, which who knows when that's going to happen at this point, his replacement will be someone who's so much more conservative than he is. And I don't think he's frankly that liberal, but his replacement's not going to be much better. That is my fear. And that means the difference between the Catholic Church and the people who call themselves Catholics is only going to grow wider. The worst part is that she would probably give a very appropriate and not particularly political speech. I think you're right about that. Yeah, she would probably give a pretty non-controversial speech because she knows when to pick and choose her battles. And she probably has something super inspirational to say to women graduates at this college and isn't interested in talking about what the church is doing right and wrong. But again, some of these people do not want to listen to that.